Good afternoon, Eric. Eric, I haven't seen you for almost 2 weeks now, right? Do you remember seeing each other at the Realtor Unite?
We saw each other at the Realtor Unite 2 weeks ago.
Eric, look what I have in my
2 weeks
pocket.
ago tomorrow.
Look what I have in my pocket. You see what this is, everybody? What is this, Eric?
That is one of my leave behinds.
That's right. Yeah.
And whenever you are in a house, it's always a good idea to bring your tape measure along.
That's
Especially
right.
if it's got my name on it.
Exactly. That's why I keep it in my pocket. Come to think of it, when I was at the expo walking around, I saw you and got this nice tape measure that I keep with me in my pocket. I noticed that they were serving wine, and you know how I love wine, and obviously you're on Wine Down Wednesday. So I know you're not a sommelier, however, and you just did a inspection. What do you do? What do you drink after a hard day doing inspections, real estate inspections, walking around, driving around all over Northern Virginia?
Well, we don't do any drinking while we're driving, okay? This is Virginia, and that's not allowed. But, if we have a nice hot day in the summer and we wrap up and have a place to relax, a nice cold beer is what I like.
Okay, so
Yep.
beer. Well, how about in the fall when it's a little cooler, more crisp? What are you drinking after a long day of doing inspections in Northern Virginia?
Oh, a nice Merlot.
Merlot. Okay, good. Well, I have to introduce you to a movie that I like called Sideways, and then you'll be Pinot Noir after that. Now, how about beer? Is there a favorite brewery that you like in Northern Virginia?
Well, we have a number of good microbreweries in Northern Virginia, but one of my favorites is Bunny Man down in Burke.
Well, now that you said that, I actually live walking distance from Bunny Man Brewery. And if all of you Bunny Man Brewery fans are listening out there, and Sam, Eric, if you're listening out there, this is your chance to sponsor this podcast, because this is one of our favorite brewery in Northern Virginia, in Burke, Virginia. And congratulations on your second location in Lorton, Virginia. So
I'm a big believer in sponsoring Bunny Man. If I happen to be doing a home inspection down there while they're open, I'll go by and pick up a few six-packs.
well, that's great. I'm glad you're supporting local businesses. And what I'm going to say now is that, our listeners really want to get some insights from listening to this podcast and watching our show. Now, first of all, tell me a little bit about Pillar to Post. I mean, how many inspections have you done? One, two?
So, Pillar to Post, I'm actually a Pillar to Post franchisee. It's the number one franchisor of home inspectors in North America. I've been doing home inspections now since early 2012, so I've done over 3,800. I have a fellow working for me. He's got about 23, 24 years experience. His name is also Eric, and he's done over 5,500 inspections.
Wow, 5,500. The last time I did a home inspection with Pillar to Post, the other Eric was there, and I feel honored to have done a home inspection with that Eric at 5,500 home inspections. Now, I know a lot of our listeners are thinking, either as a buyer or a seller, what's the importance of doing a home inspection? Should I even do one? I mean, why bother doing a home inspection if you're a seller or a buyer?
Well, I mean, if you're a buyer, having a home inspection done is very helpful to give you a sense of, are there any serious issues with the house that you might wind up having to pay good money for repairs. Also, most homes have some level of deferred maintenance and work that needs to be done. So you'll get a list of all the other smaller stuff associated with the home. So the key thing with a home inspection is it's an educational exercise. So my goal is to educate buyers about the condition and care of homes. And hopefully we don't find anything really serious, but a lot of buyers, they are not as cognizant of all the aspects of a home, and so having the home inspector go through and do all that due diligence for them is very helpful. It's like when you buy a used car. You take the car into a mechanic, and what do you want to find out about a used car? You want to find out what condition the engine's in, the transmission's in, the braking system, hydraulic system, and electrical. That's the important stuff. The rest of it is, some repairs, scratches, dents, wrinkles. And I always say I have more wrinkles on me than most houses that I'm looking at, okay? So that's the important thing, is to know the condition of the house, be able to plan for it, decide if the condition is such that you don't want to move forward with a transaction if you're the buyer, or you can move forward and you have a plan laid out for dealing with, with the things that are found during the home inspection. On the seller side, there are sellers who've been in the house 30, 40 years, and the house has served them well. I've done the basic, maintenance, but people get very comfortable in the house, and then, it comes to that time in life when they need to decide, we just don't want to look after the house anymore. We're going to downsize. We're going to move to a more convenient place to live. And, a lot of agents who are listing agents will do the due diligence and have a home inspection done on behalf of the seller, so they can see all the stuff that are likely to come up with a home inspection and proactively address anything that's significant and important, so it doesn't impact the deal going forward.
That's good to know. Let's unpack this a little bit for our listeners here. There's a lot of sellers that I've been talking to. They're really reluctant to sell because, one, they're afraid that they can't buy another place that they can afford with these high mortgage rates. And one of the things that you mentioned, Eric, that was very important was to do a home inspection, really to identify the major ticket items. Now, I'm not as big of a car guy as you are, so maybe you can help translate what those major items are for a house compared to a car. Now, roof is one thing I can think of. What are the other things that are major repair items?
Yeah, I mean, the roof is a key item because, that keeps the water out of the structure, right? You got the mechanical system, the heating and cooling. That's a big ticket item if it's old or needs to be replaced. You have the plumbing. How old's the water heater? What kind of distribution pipe you have in the house, and what kind of waste pipe you have in the house. Modern houses, you tend to have a lot of plastics and some copper on the distribution piping. Once you have older houses, on the sewer pipes, you can have galvanized pipe. Galvanized steel, you can have cast iron. Some of the distribution piping could just be old. You might have polybutylene distribution piping. That's all important stuff to know about as a result of the home inspection.
Well, Eric, just listening to you, I'm not a home inspector. I've walked through a few. I've recorded a few during the walk and talks. Just listening to you, I can sense that you definitely have a lot of expertise. Now, if we flip over to the buy side, now, our market has shifted a little bit, and home inspection contingencies, financing contingencies, some of those things are coming back. And the thing is, realtors love acronyms, and I actually don't love acronyms. One of them is HICRA, and I'm thinking, HICRA, what does that mean? But just for all you listeners out there, when a realtor says HICRA to you, you better run, because HICRA means Home Inspection Contingency Removal Addendum. Now, what happens in a transaction is that when you make an offer and you have a home inspection contingency, after Eric does a wonderful job for the buyer, there's usually a list of things. And Eric, maybe you can talk through the buy side, either when you do a walk and talk and what that is, and also when you do a full home inspection for a buyer. Maybe you can unpack that for our listeners.
Yeah. So let's say for doing a home inspection for a buyer, and so, it's a regular home inspection with a contingency to have any repairs done based upon the home inspection report. Often there will be some kind of a limit to the amount of repairs. And then, get the home inspection report. The buyer talks with the agent, decides, what are the things they may request of the seller to fix as part of the transaction and what's been found in the home inspection. And they come to between the seller and the buyer, they come to an agreement, and that generates the home inspection contingency removal addendum. And at that point, the seller has agreed to have those items listed in the HICRA fixed. And then just before closing, typically the buyer and the buyer's agent will then go through the house with the list of items that the seller has agreed to fix and verify that those have been fixed. And of course, they'll do a double check on the house, make certain nothing's changed or deteriorated since the inspection. Sometimes they'll actually have a home inspector come back out and verify professionally that all those items in the HICRA have been fixed. Okay, we do some of that. So that's how it would work on the buyer's side. That's with in the traditional home buying and market. Now, one of the things that we see in the last few years, we call a walk and talk consultation, and that's where a home inspector, the buyer, the buyer's agent, they go through the house, they go around the outside, they go through the house, and they're basically walking through the house. We're looking for there's no report written with a walk and talk consultation. So it's not an inspection. It's a consultation. But we're looking at all the key items. We're looking at the exterior, the landscaping, or any issues there. We're looking at the roof, looking to see if there's any deterioration on the exterior, just like we would for a home inspection. When we get into the house, we're going to go down the basement. You're going to look for any signs of water, moisture in the basement walls, because that's a very common finding, okay? And we'll also look at the age of the heating and cooling equipment, the water heater. Are there any issues with the plumbing that they need to be aware of, the piping, okay?
Right. Well, Eric, I want to interrupt you here. Now, keep in mind, this is a family-friendly show, so let's just keep it clean here. Now, there's a 4-letter word that I'm thinking of, and it's not the 4-letter that you're thinking of, I hope. But, I'm thinking of a 4-letter word. It's usually like black or green. I don't know what 4-letter word. I mean, can we say it on radio?
I will come right out and say it. So I always like to say during a home inspection that we don't use 4-letter words in the home inspection because mold is a 4-letter word.
That is 4 letters. That's right. M-O-L-D. That is 4 letters.
M-O-L-D. And, of course, that's something that people are always worried about. Is there mold in the house? And I get that asked quite a bit. Are you going to check for mold in the house? And, of course, we always look for any indications of mold. You can't say it's mold by looking at it. You actually have to have it tested. But if we see the staining, the typical kind of fuzziness associated with it, that'll get highlighted in an inspection report. And typically, when you have a home inspection on behalf of the buyer with a written report, they're going to bring that up with the seller, okay, and for remediation and having it addressed. In the case of a walk and talk consultation, well, then of course, the buyer is going to decide: do we want to move forward and even make an offer on this house? Do we go on to the next one? Okay, but yeah, I always like to say, mold's a 4-letter word, and it's not a word that we like to use cavalierly during a home inspection.
Well, I don't like to use other 4-letter words, but I am aware of that 4-letter word, the M-O-L-D. And, I would try to wrap up, because you've had a lot of experience doing home inspections in up markets, down markets. So you've probably seen a lot through a lot of these cycles. I just wanted to get you to share some insights from your many years of doing home inspections with your partner, Eric, and at Pillar and Post. What are some things that you wish other realtors, buyers, sellers knew about home inspections? Can you share some of those insights and wisdom with us?
Well, the key thing about the home inspection is it's not a license to ask the seller to fix a house so it's better than new. The purpose of the home inspection is to let you know about the condition of the house. And also, a good home inspector is going to give you tips on care, maintenance, let you know where all of the control points are. That's the purpose of the home inspection.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you there. Now you're getting a little technical on me. You just said control point. I'm not sure what a control point is. Maybe you can explain to our listener what you mean by that.
So control points, that's my engineering background. So control points are electrical panel, the main, main disconnect in the electrical panel. Where's the main water shutoff valve? Okay, because you should always be able to shut off the water to the house. Where are the interior shutoff valves for your hose bibs, for the garden hoses? Okay, those are control points. Thermostats are control points. So it's important as somebody living in a house to know where all of those things are located, especially anything to do with water. Where's your main gas shutoff valve? Okay, are there gas shutoff valves associated with every appliance? Those are all your control points. There's actually quite a number of them in a modern house.
That's really good to know. I didn't know about this phrase. Now I feel very educated myself as a realtor, and I can mention to someone like Eric or the other Eric, or when I'm at the home inspection where I'm not the representing the buyer but the seller, and I can ask them, do you know where all the control points are? Because I think after you said that, it's really important, because if you don't know where the control point is and your basement is flooding, you don't know how to shut off the main water valve, that could be a problem.
It can be a big problem. And every homeowner, if they take a look at their insurance policy, it's up to them when something's going on with the house that they have to stop that negative thing happening as quick as possible. And the number one source of big problems is water. Water's your best friend, it's your worst enemy. So if you had a water leak in the house and you can't deal with it with a shutoff valve at a sink or a toilet, you have to know to go down to the main water shutoff valve for the entire house and shut it off. If you don't know where it is, and the house could flood, right? Or it could take you longer to turn off the water and then just get more water into the house. Okay, so again, water's your best friend, it's your worst enemy. Know where your shut-off valves are so that when something goes on, you can address it right away.
Well, with that being said, Eric, I would actually have to say that I'm actually more afraid of the 5-letter word and not the 4-letter word, because water sounds more dangerous than the 4-letter word that we talked about, the mold, based on what you said. So with that being said, I just want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Wind Down Wednesday with our special guest, Eric Boll from Pillar to Post. And thanks for our future sponsor, Bunnyman Brewery, because Sam and Eric, I'm sure you're listening to today's show. And make sure to listen to other episodes on Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform. Until next time, relax and chill. Don't forget to wind down, not just on Wednesdays, but any day of the week when you feel stressed and had a tough day. Again, this is your host, Rayne Wu, and have a great week. Cheers, ganbei, jang, salut. And because I know you speak French, bon appetit et merci au revoir et à bientôt, monsieur.
À bientôt, monsieur.
Great, thank you.